to get up here for the follow-up work session on the draft comprehensive plan.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is the initial work session with Board of County Commissioners on the comprehensive plan. Public hearing was held on October 29th. At that time, staff made a presentation. A copy of that's in your board docs. There were several hundred people in attendance at that time with over 100 speakers. The public record was left open until November 13th. Our final review of the correspondence we received since the public hearing is approximately noted as 2,000 comments opposed to the plan, many of which were petition forms, and 30 in support of the plan. These are all posted on the county's webpage, comprehensive plan webpage, under the document library. And most of the letters are posted under the batches of numbers 50 to 53. If anyone's interested in looking at those in detail, the website is charlescountyplan.org. As previously presented, the staff can provide additional information, options, or alternatives to any specific issues as directed by the County Commission. And also with us today is some of the staff that worked on our plan, myself and Mr. Ludo and Ms. Blessinger, and other staff is available if needed, and Clive Graham from Environmental Resource Management is here. And with that, staff will turn it over to the commissioners.
Mr. Ball, could I ask you one question?
Sure.
What were the number? I tried to go through the letters, but it was just so voluminous without,
Right.
What were the numbers again in terms of for and against?
There's approximately 2,000 separate comments that are opposed to the plan, noting that many of those are petitions, and
Are
30 in
petitions
support.
considered different or held in a different
No.
category? No?
No, they're just, similar.
Okay.
So there was
So
a
there
lot,
are
there was a lot of
2,000
similar.
opposed?
Yes, and about maybe a little more. The exact number of, depends, but and 30 in support of it.
30 in support. Okay, thank you.
So with that, we would be glad to try to help provide any information you may need to help you make a decision.
Commissioners?
If no one wants to get started, I guess I will at least begin the discussion with a draft motion that I've submitted to the entire board. I've also sent copies to the county attorney's office for review. And at this time, I'd like, for the record, because I'm certain that it will ignite significant discussion amongst the board. But it is a draft motion, and it is a step-by-step process for completion of the tier map designations and adoption of the 2013 Charles County Comprehensive Plan. And I will begin, and it's in bullet form. The Board of Charles County Commissioners will appoint a 6-member working group to address concerns regarding the tier map designations, inconsistencies in the proposed comprehensive plan arising from new tier map designations, public comments presented at the October 29th hearing, and to make recommendations to the county commissioners. The working group will be composed of an equal number of proponents and opponents of the proposed comprehensive plan. And this is a very important distinction because it virtually assures that there will be, if any movement is involved, it will be a consensus driven. There won't be a majority. The 6 members of the working group shall be as follows: Stephen M. Bunker, Chairman of the Charles County Planning Commission; Joseph Richards, Vice Chair of the Planning Commission, with the understanding that his term has expired, and so it would be assumed that the Planning Commission would actually set forth an additional individual. to take Mr. Richard's place once someone has been established. Richard Hall, Secretary, Maryland Department of Planning. Douglas Meeker, Suburban Maryland Building and Industry Association. David Lines, Charles County Farmer, and Greg Bowen, former Calvert County Planning Director. And again, it's very clear that it's essentially a six-member board, but three of the members of the board, for obvious reasons, are taking, opposite ends on the overall comprehensive plan that was submitted to the Board of County Commissioners. The working group will work with Richard E. Hall, Secretary, Maryland Department of Planning, to address the state's concerns regarding the tier map for Charles County. The working group will meet to develop a draft tier map agreed to by consensus of the group for recommendation to the county commissioners. The tier map will then be voted up or down by the county commissioners and adopted by majority vote. The county commissioners will seek recommendations from the work group and initiate a review of possible options to assist farmers and individual landowners, not developers, who are impacted by Tier 4 land use limitations. Following adoption of the tier map, the county commissioners will consider additional recommendations by the working group on the proposed comprehensive plan, focusing on the correction of inconsistencies in the plan arising from the adoption of the tier map and any other adjustments arising from a review of the public record of the October 29th hearing. The working group will complete its assignment and submit its recommendations on or before February 28, 2014. The county commissioners will then adopt the 2013 comprehensive plan after the process outlined above is completed, including incorporation into the plan of any adjustments recommended by the working group and approved by the county commissioners. The plan will be suspended or held in abeyance and not adopted until after the working group completes its assignment and the county commissioners have taken on their recommendations. And the county commissioners will finally comply with all notice and public hearing requirements before the adoption of any changes in the proposed comprehensive plan. And so that is the content of the motion that I'm suggesting. I want to really highlight a couple of points with this. First and foremost, this is an attempt to address many of the issues that have been raised in the general public. It's certainly consistent with the position that I've taken since January of 2013 in terms of recognizing that there were some potential issues that could be addressed by the county commissioners as it related to the tier map. It's also under advisement, and I received a legal memo from the county's attorney that we hired to represent us regarding the tier maps, Mr. Warren Rich, who is here as well. And the third comment I'd like to emphasize is I received certain assurances from the state that they were okay with this general procedural plan to address some of the concerns that were raised. And quite frankly, I would not even submit this without having some assurances that there would be some support from the state in this effort.
Before we start, are we already paying Mr. Rich Hill to be here, wherever his name, Warren Rich? Are we paying him for today? Okay. Well, it'd be nice if we all knew that in advance. We didn't. I didn't. When did this happen? With all due respect, Mr. Rich, it does get a little tedious that we keep paying this attorney, then we don't even know about it, but be that as it may. Commissioner Robinson?
Okay. I'm going to have a lot to say about this proposed draft motion, but prior to getting to that point, I'm assuming, Commissioner Collins, that based on your introduction of this draft motion that you're not happy with the draft plan as it was presented to us. And if that is the case, or if it's not, tell me. But if it is the case, I think we should keep this in sequence, and the first thing we should do is reject what was put before us on October 29th, where we kept the record open, and finally we're here for this work session on the draft plan. And let me know your feelings on that, and then I'll get into how I feel about the motion that you presented.
I think there are legal arguments going both ways, which suggest that you probably could do that. But just in terms of my discussions with some of the critical members of this particular group, one of the issues that was raised, and Commissioner Kelly, you can attest to that, was the timing and whether, in fact, there could be an actual approval of the plan and then an effort to look at the tier map. And so to accommodate that, the way this is framed is that the actual motion itself would address the issue from the perspective of the tier map, because the other question is fundamentally, I am convinced that the comprehensive plan that has been submitted is legally sufficient. That was one of the reasons why the county sought outside counsel to advise us on this. So I think in terms of the overall plan itself, I agree that the plan is legally sound. But this is an effort on my part to address, many of the issues that have been raised within the community, to allow an opportunity for some feedback, most specifically to allow, because again, my conversations with individuals that are familiar with the process throughout the state, have raised the specter of possibly finding some type of mediating ground to address issues of concern. And so my response, therefore, to your question is that, with an understanding that that is a potential option, this is basically the way to present this, where I feel confident that I would get the absolute engagement from the state.
Okay. Now I have three more comments. Well, first, I'm going to address the tier map, since you brought that up, and you brought up Mr. Rich. About a year ago, perhaps a little longer than that, we voted to hire Mr. Rich as outside counsel, and during a conference call, he advised us to ignore the tier maps and first deal with the comp plan, and then he flip-flopped on that just a couple of months ago and told us the opposite. I think it's very clear that the tier maps would drive the comprehensive plan, so I'm in total agreement. However, the tier maps are one thing that the commissioners have the authority to create and tinker with, and I know that the five of us came awfully close to reaching a compromise on the tier map, and then it was because Mr. Rich said, no, deal with the comp plan first, that it was put on the back burner. Now, as far as the comp plan is concerned, this totally diminishes the role of the Planning Commission, and though I might not agree with what they came up with in terms of a plan, that's where we, the commissioners, are supposed to step in and step up. And citizens count on us to make decisions, and this, as far as I'm concerned, is shirking our responsibility and punting probably the most critical decision we will make during our term in office. And the night of the public hearing, which went on for hours and hours and hours, I jokingly asked the county attorney if I could leave the record open until 2018, and to me, this work group essentially will do that.
Well, to respond to that, first off, it's a very clear time designation in this plan. They will complete their work on or before February 28th of this year, and then upon the completion of their work and findings, they will present to the commissioners something that the commissioners will vote up and down on.
Well,
That's the first.
I think that all the members on this proposed work group are fine and honorable county citizens, but this is not their job. This was the Planning Commission's job, and this was our job. And we need to have the guts.
Well, let me say, maybe perhaps you view it as not having the guts. Perhaps I view it as an opportunity to diminish the bloodletting and division within the community on this issue. I think that the group and the content of this group, I believe, will operate in the best interest of all our citizens. We will still have the opportunity to address and vote up and down their findings. But from my perspective, this is, and I want to make it clear, because it's not like this is something that the public has not heard from me. This has been, from my perspective, one of the options that I preferred in terms of trying to address, some of the fundamental concerns that were raised. And I want to again emphasize that having even limited assurances from the state that they would be willing, to work with us, I think is compelling, and I think it's something that certainly shows that there's an interest, on the state level to address some of the concerns that were raised. So I disagree with the assertion that somehow we are no longer taking advantage of our responsibilities, because we will still essentially vote up and down the plan.
Can I say one last
Go
thing on
ahead.
this? Okay. There is, county attorney, I think, advised us on this quite a while ago, that there is one other entity that has the ability to weigh in on this, and that is county staff, and they have the education and expertise, and they worked very hard on this, and basically they were, talk about diminished role, county staff's role in this whole process was diminished, and I'm frankly embarrassed about that portion of it. We're not experts on anything or everything here. We're supposed to take the advice, and we're supposed to trust those that we hire, and I do. And if there was one other entity that I would feel comfortable with asking to come up with a plan that would work for both sides, or for all four sides, because there really isn't just one side or two sides. There are multiple ways of looking at this plan. I would be very comfortable turning this over to county staff.
And
And I'd
my
like to-
response to that would be that one of the issues that have made this so divisive is, whether fair or unfair, the role of county staff in the process. And that's why, again, looking at the makeup of this working group, these are well-respected individuals, and I think the representations and interests of all people involved in this process, no matter what position you have on growth or the comprehensive plan, will be thoroughly and neutrally respected. You're going to have essentially a consensus. It will force a consensus, just the makeup of this body. And, and at the end of the day, the body may conclude that, we're at a total impasse. We can't do anything. We can't reach any type of agreement that we could submit to the county commissioners, and then the county commissioners, towards the end of February, will address that, and we will either vote it down, up and down the plan as is.
Commissioners, any other comments? Okay, well, first of all, your timeline. We had a timeline for the school allocation adequate public facility group. Very important information that we need, and we all know the very fact that we're discussing the 2012 comp plan on January 7th of 2014 kind of gives me the impression that the chances of this group following a timeline are slim to none. That's number one. Number two, you talk about this bloodletting and division, this division in our county. I'm not seeing it. 2,000 to 30 is not a division. 2,000 to 30 is a real clear majority, which forces me to say, what is the motivation here? We were elected. We were elected to do a job. Okay, the Planning Commission did their job. We were responsible. They did the tier maps. We knew, whether Mr. Rich knew it or not, that the whole point of Senate Bill 236 was that you create tier maps. We were just in a weird time frame, and then that should drive your comprehensive plan. We're well aware that this new designation of AC to RR is nothing more than a game that we're playing with words, okay? We know that. So for us to sit here and act like this is some great example of diplomacy and statesmanship, I have to use the word embarrassed too. The bottom line is, We were elected to do a job, and it's not easy. And it's really tough when you're against the 2,000 people that are opposed to it and in favor of and working for the 30 who are. So obviously, we kind of know where the votes will go, but I want to be very clear. And I'd also like to know, because I do believe we have a resolution that says that commissioners aren't supposed to be talking to agencies and so forth, so I'd really like to know who in the state you were talking with that suggested that this, that this is fine. I mean, and where did these names come from? I would certainly expect, if we're going to have a committee, that the commissioners wouldn't be told who in the motion who would be serving in those positions, but be that as it may, it takes guts to do your job. And I don't think it's any secret to anybody out there that my husband's a developer, and I worked in the development business, and I paid a high price in terms of the friends I've lost over the last 3 years. But you know what? You elected me, and you elected us to do our job. And when you don't have the guts to stand up and do the right thing, and you want to keep hiding behind committees, I find that embarrassing. And that's what I view this as, and I stand ready to begin rolling up my sleeves and working on a tier map that we were very close, very, very close to completing, and then having something of substance to send back to our Planning Commission. We are becoming the laughing stock of the state. There is no reason that we can't do this, and we sure don't need a committee of 6, specially handpicked people, okay, to do it. And you know what? If we can't do it, then we need to resign from these positions that the voters put us into. Any other comments?
Wow, you've had a great day, Commissioner Kelly.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis.
You've had a great day. You accused us of all kinds of stuff. Okay, I would first like to commend Commissioner Collins on his leadership and compromise, because there's surely enough votes, as you may guess, to approve this comp plan without any compromise. And you stepping outside of yourself and outside of your duties, and to make sure to try to reach some consensus on this matter is commendable. I think one thing that we've forgotten in this whole process was the Planning Commission, which is a state board, and they have a recommendation. We seem to have forgotten them in this whole process, and that they brought this recommendation to us. I'd like to thank the people who have brought this forward so far, Mr. Clive Graham from ERM, for the Planning Commission, and staff for their hard work and for their dedications in sometimes contentious circumstances, and we know that. I am frankly ready to put this thing to bed, but in an effort to seek some compromise, and even to involve the state, which I don't think they have a role in, but even to involve the state, I think it's an awesome opportunity to make some strides for people who still have some issues with the comp plan. I'm willing to do whatever, but I'm not going to sit here and let you impugn Commissioner Collins for trying to find a compromise.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Davis, and I'll just say it again. 2,000 opposed, 34. I don't think you need to say much more than that.
I don't know where that count came from, but
I think
okay.
Look at your board doc.
You have anything like?
I think it's a good compromise.
Well, we'll call for the question. We have a motion, Commissioner Collins. Is this the full motion, or do you want to amend anything? Or are we going to just roll this one through like everything else?
I thought that's county attorney. Can we do this?
Oh, because you've already reviewed the motion, right?
We just got it.
You just got it too?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you want time to review it?
I don't believe that we
Commissioner Robinson, while you're thinking of an answer.
A question for the county attorneys. It's my understanding that there was very little the commissioners could do related to the comprehensive plan, correct?
That's correct.
Doesn't this put the commissioners in the role of actually doing something with the comprehensive plan by creating a committee that we're either going to say yay or nay to what they come up with? And they're not the planning commission.
One of the things that this work group is designed to do, evidently, is to review the tier maps. and I'm just going to harken back to the tier maps. The tier maps is something that the commissioners themselves could have gone ahead and taken action on, but instead, I think the commissioners voted to go ahead and relegate that responsibility to the Planning Commission.
No, that's not how it happened. The Planning Commission approved tier maps, and then it came to us. We met, we came very close to...
But we could have done them initially without them going
outset,
through.
Right.
when 236 was enacted, it was the commissioner's choice as to whether or not to even involve the Planning Commission at all. You could have gone ahead and said, Mr. Ludo or the zoning officer, can you go ahead and make some recommendations, and then go ahead and make that change from there. But to the extent it is that we now have a comprehensive plan, and the tier map needs to go ahead and align with the comprehensive plan.
We do not have a comprehensive plan. We have a draft
We have a
comprehensive.
draft, thank you.
And how long can we leave that sitting out there?
2018.
Because we're really not doing anything with it. And the two are not tied together, except in the instance that after the tier maps are completed, they then determine what the comp plan must look like.
The tier maps need to be integrated and need to be made consistent with what it is that's in the comprehensive plan. I believe that all of the information that we've seen at this point in time is that there is, it's legally defensible to go ahead and make sure it is that anything that comes about is something it is that is going to be able to be evaluated against the comprehensive plan.
I have to tell you, I think a legal opinion is in order. We went out and got an outside opinion on a lot of things. I mean, we're about to establish this work group. I'd be interested in your feedback. Or are you all satisfied that this motion is just fine?
I believe that it is legally defensible.
After just getting it. And everyone feels comfortable.
Call for the vote.
Yeah. Well, I just want to mention one other point about this committee, having this 6-member committee. We had hundreds of people that participated in charrettes for one whole year. Clive, you were part of that. A lot of people were part of that. And so essentially, which in their minds, all of these things jumble together. So not only are we ignoring all those that took the time to sign the petitions and come to the meetings and stay engaged in the charrettes, we're just going to say none of that matters, but these 6 folks, we'll leave it up to them. So anyway, all in favor?
Excuse me, I don't have a second.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed. New business.
We take 5 minutes break while I get the people for the school pool.
Something was going to come
Yes.
up in new business.
We're going to take need more than that, you think? 10 minutes? 10-minute break. Go ahead, Mr. Bell. I'm sorry.
It was originally scheduled on the agenda